to stop you. The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border? Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be. And I really find this exchange, Martha, sort of interesting because you seem to be more focused with nitpicking everything that Donald Trump has said rather than acknowledging that apartment complexes in the United States of America are being taken over by violent gangs.
Really question JD Vance on this? I just don't understand. These people hate America so much that they are willing to blow over the fact that Venezuelan gang members are taking over apartment complexes. This video is brought to you by TatumStore.com, TatumStore.com. Get the merch link in the description section. I forgot how much people really love this shirt. I mean, the yard signs are flying off the handle. Those come in this week, mind you. So just make sure you hit the notify me when made available because they come in this week. I think they're going to come in on like Wednesday. So make sure you get one. And also, we have these shirts available. Get you one. If it says sold out, hit notify me when made available, and we'll see how many people want it, and that's how many we'll make, and then we'll be, we'll be squared away. Like and subscribe to the channel. Y'all already know what to do. Let's get into this. Ladies and gentlemen, and ladies. I don't know why they keep putting JD Vance on TV if they trying to win. It becomes a conspiracy to me. It's like, wait a minute. They know they getting whooped on the TV by JD Vance. They know if they put Vivek and them on the TV, they getting spanked like a disobedient stepchild. I don't know why they keep doing it. What angle are they working with here? Or are they so arrogant that they believe they have the upper hand and they have the moral high ground that they can be so smug and say, it's just a few apartment complexes. That's not a lot. What? In America? Open borders? Gangs taking over apartment complexes? That's crazy. But we got the whole interview for you, because I knew it had to be juicier than just that one clip. So let's watch it real quick. You'll see the clip that you want to see very early on in this interview. But for those of you who want to watch the whole thing and get the full context, we got it right here. Roll the film.
I'm joined now by Republican Vice Presidential nominee, Senator JD Vance. So happy to have you here this morning, Senator Vance. I know you've been going hard on the campaign trail, but I want to start with the hurricane. During Hurricane Helene, as we heard, former President Trump suggested the federal government was not only sending FEMA aid meant for the hurricane to migrants, but going out of their way to not help people in Republican areas. Do you think that is true?
Well, Martha, what the president said is that fundamentally FEMA aid is distracted by going to illegal migrants. And by the way, good morning, and thanks for having me. We've got Republican congressmen who are on the ground who represent that area saying that they have to call the White House to get food and water to FEMA. I don't frankly think there's anything malicious going on here, Martha, but I do think that we've had an incompetent response to this particular crisis, particularly in Western North Carolina, which, to be fair, was hit harder than a lot of us expected it. But fundamentally, if you've got 6 days after the hurricane, the 82nd Airborne is still trickling in, I do think that we had a fundamentally incompetent, overly bureaucratic response to the hurricane. So what you hear from folks on the ground is they feel left behind. And Martha, we have to remember, of course, I know this area well. This is the Appalachian region of our country where people have felt ignored by their government for 30 years, and it doesn't help when you have a response to the hurricane that's slow, that's halting, and then you layer on top of it,
Senator Vance
has done a lot.
Senator Vance, I want to go back to
resettlement work. Go ahead.
I want to go back to what former President Trump said. He said they're going out of their way to not help people in Republican areas. There is no truth to that. And on
I'm going to let it play.
Staging, Pentagon officials say that active duty troops were staged and ready to go before being called upon and were instantly out the door. So President Trump, former President Trump, is saying things that aren't true about that money being withheld from Republican areas.
Well, Martha, I think you're actually confusing staging of resources from the rapid response of the U.S. military. I mean, look, in FEMA's defense, there are things after this hurricane that FEMA simply could not do. You actually need military command and control. You need military resources deployed to the area. And I think all the president has said is, frankly, what some of Kamala Harris's surrogates have said, which is that if these areas were a little bit more democratic, maybe Kamala Harris would have focused on them more. That acknowledgement is not to attack, frankly, the good folks of FEMA. It's to suggest that Americans are feeling left behind by their government, which they are, Martha.
Okay,
if you talk to folks on the ground, I've had friends that have been in Boone, North Carolina, helping with the cleanup. It is an extraordinary sense of betrayal and being left behind. People are worried that their government doesn't care about them. I'm much more worried about the incompetence of Kamala Harris's administration that led to that more than
Senator
I am
Vance,
the fact that Donald
Senator
Trump
Vance, I'm just going to say that local officials and FEMA officials say that is just flat wrong. But I want to, we played some other comments about migrants, including in Aurora, in Colorado, where Trump said the city had been invaded.
These people are so stupid, man. Why can't people understand that there's nuance to what people say? Donald Trump says that his opinion is that they're not responding properly. The people feel like they're not responding properly. Whether the government tries to say that they are or not is irrelevant. These people annoy the living F out of me. I cannot stand these dirty, evil, ignorant, silly people. This woman would never talk to Kamala Harris like this. Never question anything. I don't understand how they missing the point. You can say, Donald Trump said this, do you believe it? He says no. He gives the explanation. Move to the next question. Why do you got to argue with him about a person's opinion about something? Ask the people who live there, do they feel like they're being betrayed? Do they feel like that FEMA is not working with them because they're in a conservative area? And if they say yes, what you gonna say? Okay.
And conquered by Venezuelan gangs. The Republican mayor of the city said flatly the city and state have not been taken over or invaded or occupied by migrant gangs. So do you support Donald Trump making those claims that the Republican mayor says were grossly exaggerated and have hurt the city's identity and sense of safety? I understand what you're saying, that some people left behind, but he's making these statements that the mayor is flat out disputing.
Well, Martha, you just said the mayor said they were exaggerated.
Grossly exaggerated.
That means there's got to be some element of truth here. And of course, President Trump was actually in Aurora, Colorado, talking to people on the ground. And what we're hearing, of course, Martha, is that people are terrified by what has happened with some of these Venezuelan gangs.
Senator Vance, I'm going to stop you because I know exactly what happened.
Martha.
I'm going to stop you. The incident.
I hate these people, man. I'm so fed up with this. I know exactly what happened. You don't know nothing. You reading on a piece of paper. You know exactly what happened. Did you read a paper? You didn't experience this. You reading off a paper. But you telling this man, I know exactly what happened. No, you don't. You don't know what happened. You saying, I know what he said happened. You just said, I know what happened. You lying. Your rhetoric is wrong. You are the bad person in this. You weren't talking about Trump. You just said you know what happened.
Were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border. Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be. And I really find this exchange, Martha, sort of interesting because you seem to be more focused with nitpicking everything that Donald Trump has said rather than acknowledging that apartment complexes in the United States of America are being taken over by violent gangs. I worry so much more about that problem than anything else here. We've got to get American communities in a safe space again. And unfortunately, when you let people in by the millions most of whom are unvetted, most of whom you don't know who they really are, you're going to have problems like this. Kamala Harris, 94 executive orders that undid Donald Trump's successful border policies. We knew this stuff would happen. They bragged about opening the border, and now we have the consequences, and we're living with it. We can do so much better, but frankly, we're not going to do better, Martha, unless Donald Trump calls this stuff out. I'm glad that he did.
Okay, let's just end that with they did not invade or take over the city, as Donald Trump said.
So I just don't understand why they can't have a conversation about the Venezuelan gangs, right? Like, okay, Trump said this. Okay, we get it. Whether he was exaggerated or not. Okay, now let's talk about this gang. What are you seeing? This is what this broad should be asking him. What are you seeing? You guys went to Aurora. Are this really happening? Like, how bad is it? What are the people saying? What are you hearing from the ground? What policies do you feel like are in place or not in place that could eliminate this? What would your solution be to fix the problem that people are complaining about in Aurora? That's not what they ask.
I want to move on to
just a few apartment complexes, no big deal.
A few apartment complexes that the mayor did not seem was invading the entire city. Let's move on to women and abortion. Donald Trump is leading Kamala Harris in our poll among males by 8 points, but lagging behind Harris by 9 points among females. You said during the debate that you and Trump have more to do to earn back people's trust, specifically as it relates to women and reproductive rights. 56% of those polled support restoring abortion access to what it was under Roe v. Wade. So what would you say specifically to the women watching this morning who believe they should have their own say over their bodies and not the government, either state or federal?
Well, Martha, first of all, what I'd say is that I think renationalizing this entire debate is a big mistake. And I understand that a lot of Americans, according to that poll, apparently disagree with me and President Trump here. But we want to respect Californians. We want to respect Alabamans. We want to respect Pennsylvanians. These folks are going to have different approaches to this particular topic. And I think that what we had in this country for 50 years was a culture war over this particular issue because we had nationalized it. And it's also important, Martha, that while Kamala Harris uses the slogan of returning to Roe versus Wade, she has endorsed policies that go way beyond anything that Roe versus Wade ever meant in this country. Taxpayer-funded abortions for late-term abortions. She's explicitly refused to endorse things like the Born Alive Act, which would protect babies who survive botched abortion. So while she hides behind the popular slogan of Roe versus Wade, Kamala Harris's actual abortion views, I think, are much more radical than even a lot, I think, frankly, most of our pro-choice citizens.
Let me go back again. What would you say to those women who don't want people involved in their individual rights? Kamala Harris is on that side of that, not you.
Well, I think, Martha, that's not right, actually. I think Kamala Harris has taken this so far that a lot of women, if they knew Kamala Harris's actual view and not the slogan, they would recognize that it's far more radical. They can believe in individual autonomy, but also recognize there are, of course, limits here. We don't want to abort 9-month-old babies here, and we don't want to have taxpayers funding it. So I think everybody recognizes there's a right balance to strike. But to answer your question, Martha, what I would say to women is that Donald Trump and I want to make it easier to make the choice of life in the first place. And I know a lot of young women, especially when I was younger, who chose abortion because they feel like they didn't have any options. And what I want to do as a person who admittedly, Martha, wants to protect the most vulnerable members of our society, I'd like to make it easier for women to choose life to begin with. I think that goes to lowering the cost of housing, which, of course, has skyrocketed under Kamala Harris's administration. I think it's making it easier for working moms to balance work and life and family. There's a lot that we can do to become more pro-family. That's how I think we can best earn back trust. And
Senator, yes. I want to get to some other topics here.
Oh, Senator, I don't want you to blast me and make me look stupid about this whole topic of abortion. Let's just move on to the next question because I didn't get a gotcha moment. Let me just say this real quick, and I'm not going to lament on this too long. I don't like JD Vance's. I think he got a good tactic. I don't like the weakness of the Republican Party when it comes to abortions. Like, it's very simple and clear. Explain what's happening here. Okay, let's play this out. We want every woman to be able to do this, right? Right? Okay. What does a 15-week baby look like? This is what the baby. I got a baby in my office, a little mold. All right, so here's my little mannequin babies. I don't know if you can see it. The size of my hand. I don't want to drop them on the ground, but this is the size of a 12-week. I think this may be 12 weeks. 15, 16 weeks is much bigger than this. Babies grow incrementally. I got my white one too, so just say y'all don't think I'm a racist. I got a black one and a white one. These are my little babies on here. Okay. When you see this baby. And I wish I could zoom in so you could see the details of it. Head, arms, hands, feet, everything. This is almost a full baby right here. Explain to me, how do y'all abort this? What do you do? What do you do to it? Explain what you do to this baby right here. Man, if you have to have somebody explain that, I think what happens is, trust me on this, people don't know exactly. They're lulled into this disconnect between what's happening in an abortion and what they want to believe is happening, right? You know, your first trimester, you're about 2-3 weeks in. They was, oh, it's just dust, and people are like, oh yeah, that's nothing. I could just do that, and it's never really a person. Then they go to 15 weeks, and it's like this. And they try to say, oh no, it's just nothing. It'll flush out and it'll be nothing. It's like, you know, like a heavy period or something like that. But they don't tell you they got to stick some in there and snip the spinal cord and tear the baby up, like chop it up and pull it out. They don't tell you that. And if people knew that's a process that was happening, I'm talking about the everyday person, they'd be like, oh, wait. I think that's too much. You telling me the baby look like this? That's too much. That's too much. That's too, and if you feel pain, that's too much. Can y'all go to the doctor and pee on that thing a little earlier? Can we be reasonable? And I just feel like Republicans are so weak on this topic. Women should not have abortions. And to be honest, if you are going to do it, you can't make the my body, my choice claim. And if you do make the my body, my choice claim, you got to be all in. You got to be all in, meaning that a man don't have to take care of that kid when it's born, because it was all your choice and all your responsibility. You could have chose life or death for that baby, and the man has nothing to say about it, so he shouldn't have no responsibility. The taxpayer, when you have a baby and you need government assistance, you can't get none, because the government don't have nothing to do with your body, all your choices. You can't have nothing to do with that. If you can go to a clinic and you can abort the baby and it's not murder, then therefore, if somebody else hits you in the stomach, you get in a car accident and your baby die, it's not a real baby anyway, right? So nobody can be charged with murder. They can be charged with injuring you, but they don't injure the baby because it don't exist, right? Sick of these people.
On the Attorney General, sure. You said on Friday that the most important person in government in a Trump-Vance administration, other than the president, is not you. It would be the Attorney General. Why do you consider that the most important spot, the second most important spot?
Well, one reason, Martha, is just public opinion. And what I mean here is that we really want the American people to believe that we have a fair and equitable administration of justice. If not, the entire sort of system falls apart. You need people to believe that if the Attorney General prosecutes somebody, it's motivated by justice and law and not by politics. And unfortunately,
would Donald Trump go after his political opponents? Would Donald Trump go after his political opponents? He suggested that in the past.
Martha, he was president for 4 years, and he didn't go after his political opponents. You know who did go after her political opponents? Kamala Harris, who has tried to arrest everything from pro-life activists to her political opponents. He said those people who cheated will be prosecuted as a weapon against people. Well, he said that people who violated our election laws will be prosecuted. I think that's the administration of law. He didn't say people are going to go to jail because they disagree with me. That has, in fact, been the administration and the policy of Kamala Harris, Martha. Look, under the last 3.5 years, we have seen politically motivated after politically motivated prosecution. I'd like us to just get back to a system of law and order where we try to arrest people when they break the law, not because they disagree with the prevailing opinion of the day. And there's a fundamental difference here between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Donald Trump may agree may agree or disagree on a particular issue, but he will fight for your right to speak your mind without the government trying to silence you. Kamala Harris has explicitly
Senator Vance,
censorship
I
of folks
want to
who
go back
disagree
to
with her.
Donald Trump.
We've got to
again.
get a Department of Justice that believes in the First Amendment, Martha. The First Amendment is the bedrock of our Constitution.
Senator,
we have Kamala Harris who doesn't
Senator,
even
we're
believe
just
in
about
it.
out
Go
of
ahead,
time
Martha.
here. We're just about out of time here. And I want to end with this. In interview after interview, question after question, and in the debate, you refused to say that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. So I'm just going to assume that if I ask you 50 times whether he lost the election, you would not acknowledge that he did. Is that correct?
Martha, you asked this question. I've been asked this question 10 times in the past couple of weeks. Of course, Donald Trump and I believe there were problems in 2020. You haven't asked about inflation. No,
I'm sorry. Let's stick to this.
People,
I know.
American people want us to talk about how to make their lives better. They don't want us to.
Why won't you say that?
Because, Martha, I believe that in 2020, when big tech firms were censoring American citizens, that created very serious problems. And by the way, Martha, you're a journalist. You represent the American media. Look at the polling on this. A lot of Americans feel like they were silenced in the run-up to the 2020 election. That is such a bigger issue. That fundamental problem than me and Donald Trump talking about it. And unfortunately,
Martha, I don't understand why you won't just say it if you believe it.
Won't just say what? That I think the 2020 election had some problems? I've said that repeatedly.
Did Donald Trump lose? That's the question, and you know that's the question.
Martha, I've said repeatedly, I think the 2020 election had problems. You want to say rigged? You want to say he won? Use whatever vocabulary term you want. I want to focus on the fact that we had big technology firms censoring our fellow citizens in a way that violated our fundamental rights. The fact that you're so obsessed with what word I used to describe this phenomenon rather than the phenomenon itself suggests something very broken in the American media. If we want to restore trust in American elections and democracy, which I want to do, Martha, we have to talk openly about what happened in 2020. And most importantly, we've got to talk about what happened afterwards. Okay. Americans being unable to afford the basic necessities of middle-class life because Kamala Harris is in the White House.
Now think about this. That's the end of the discussion. She didn't ask about inflation. She didn't ask about anything. She just wanted to bash Donald Trump on a few things that he said that she disagreed with. Like, what is the point of the interview with JD Vance if you're not going to talk about what the American people want to hear from their side? You bring him on just to say Donald Trump lied about all these things. Okay, the end. I mean, you made your mind up. Ask me some questions about what the American people want to see from this administration. Nobody cares about what Donald Trump said here or there. What has he done? Has he done anything positive or negative? Which way does the balance beam lie? Is he doing what he's supposed to do or is he not? Is he going to help American people or is he not? He's going to imprison his fellow American people he said, if you cheat in the election, you're going to jail. Is that not is that not real? They want to put him in jail. There's so much stuff going on here, man. Y'all, I'm being honest with y'all. And I know this is not a Patriot Supply video, but I work with a company called Patriot Supply. You'll see the sponsorship on another video. But it's literally a stockpile of food resources. I got a canister right here. They last up to like 25 years, and I think this is 3 weeks worth of food. Now I got a few of them because we gonna need food for a very long time. I honestly believe this, and if those of you sitting around watching this at this point, you need to hear this. We are going to have a big issue in America here soon. I don't know if it's in the next 10 years to 20 years. There is going to be a fundamental conflict in America, and resources are going to be necessary for you and your family. And it's not a sponsorship, nobody paying me to say this. I got to get the big screen. I literally am buying as much Freedom Seeds as I can for every variation of Freedom Seed devices that I have, because something may happen here. I'm already looking at land. I'm already looking at all this stuff. I got my food supply. I'm telling you, man. Like I'm thinking about getting gas masks and stuff for my family. I honestly believe there's going to be a conflict. And what I've been doing just recently is that I'm stocking up on certain things a little bit at a time. And toilet paper not that important, even though I got a little pile of it, but it's not that important because at the end of the day, if you can wipe your butt and wash your hands, or you can wipe your butt with a towel or something like that. You don't need no toilet paper. That's not a necessity. You can wipe stuff off without a toilet paper. You put some water on it, get in the shower, whatever you need to do. But there's other things that I've been really stockpiling on because there's going to be an issue. If they do something shady in this election, there will be I think people are not going to respond like they did in 2020. I'm telling you, like it's going to be an issue. If somehow these Democrats get in office and they start telling people that they can't own certain weapons and that they censor you on social media, it's going to be an uprising. And you may not be involved in it, but the supply chain may be involved in it. You get truckers who say, I'm not delivering nothing if Kamala Harris don't do this and this and that. I'm telling you, man, like people ain't gonna have resources. I'm just warning you. I feel it coming. I feel we're aware of this stuff now. We see them for who they are, and we watching them attack us through Donald Trump. I'm not saying that I'm a part of it. I'm just saying it may happen. All right, I'll see y'all on the next one.